Barbara. It's difficult to make the move here and ride away from riders, but Dilliard is there, still taking turns, still riding. They have a minute on those behind. It's going to be either the Swiss champion or the world champion. It's going to be Sylvain Dilliard. Oh, it's going to be for the first time at Paris-Roubaix, the one that Sagan told us here at Eurosport the other day that he wanted to win.
Robert Goss, I'm Parks and Recreation Director with the City of Folsom.
Andrew Shimizu, Mike's Bike Team. Welcome.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for coming by.
Oh, yeah.
And if people want to learn a little bit more about you personally, they can check out podcast episode 4, where we sat down and Panera Bread. Had a nice little.
Am I your first repeat? Two-peat?
We've had a few repeats. Sounds like you need to get caught up on the show.
Yeah.
So I'm with Nilsson Palace. You do it? I see a few.
Well, plenty of reasons.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Between Two Wheels podcast. I'm joined today with Chris Flower, not Curt Mills, just Chris Flower. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing pretty good.
And I'm Tyler Janke. I'm Tyler Janke, and I'm doing good as well. Okay. It's almost the end of the year. We're going to do a little recap show here because there's not really a lot going on in cycling, right?
I would agree, yeah.
All right, so let's just recap.
There might be a lot going on. We're just not aware of it.
Right. Which is, we have this text string with you, me, and Curt, and we're lamenting our weight, our poor fitness. How's it been for you since the marathon that you ran?
It's been okay. Weight ticked up a little bit, unfortunately. Fitness has started to come around. One thing I learned is that running fitness doesn't immediately translate over to cycling fitness. My running fitness wasn't great to speak of. It was just kind of longer, steady efforts. And then I think the week after I did that marathon, I jumped into the group rides, which has a lot of surging efforts. And I'm pretty sure I was redlined like in the neutral rollout. So
right. And you were on, I was on some of those with you, and it was fun to watch. You cracked on one of them, which is interesting. It wasn't a long ride. And
right. It was a long ride.
Well, I guess it was, and you fueling just fine. And I was thinking, you just did 26.2 run, unless you cheated it. You should be okay. But it's just your body's different. Yeah.
It didn't help that I think Curt was like unintentionally attacking over and over and over. At least it felt like that.
He's been relentless on his riding. That is not on showing up for this show.
Right.
So New Year's coming up. I've got some resolutions, as always. My wife's been, maybe if you stopped eating, you can stop complaining. I was near suicidal on Christmas morning with the weight, but I got over it pretty quick. Anyway, so we got a bunch of riding coming up. The first race of the year is coming up, Monday, Tuesday, right?
Tuesday.
San Bruno
Tuesday morning,
Hill Climb?
Yeah.
Yeah, have you done that?
I've not. I won't do it in 2019 either. So.
Right.
How about you?
No, I won't. I've had interest in it before when I've actually been in shape this time of year. And from what I've seen, it looks like a mass start time trial hill climb type of thing. So
yeah, mass start, obviously it's by category. Do they do everybody together and kind of?
No, mass start in your category.
Okay,
When I first was looking at it, I was like, hill climb, it's, maybe it's a time trial type of thing because it's so dictated on the time. But
right.
No.
Do you know much about the climb? Is it, distance-wise, time-wise?
Nate English, former rider with Kenda and some of those others. He's a coach. He did a whole video of it last year, the prep on it, and did the climb. I don't know much about it. I know not much about it. But good luck to those that are doing it. And then we have almost a few more weeks, and we'll get into Lamb Park and the races that go there.
Yeah, and before that, there's always the well thought of Early Bird series.
I don't think well thought of. Early Bird, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously that's a great opportunity for folks to get out and learn how to handle their bike in different situations. I think they also do like a P1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 crit at the end of the day.
Right.
So no official placings, but good opportunity to kind of test your fitness, see where you're at.
For me, it's a bit of a drive just to go do that. And
it's a very long drive, unfortunately.
Right. And I don't know that, and maybe I do need to. I mean, doing this long enough, I don't feel like I need to work on my skills so much. It's maybe you're looking at me like, no, you do.
No, I think your skills are just fine.
I don't know about just fine. All right, so we got a few things to talk about. We'll talk about, I don't know. I mean, let me go back to, I saw a video this morning of my data from Strava. So you had yours as well. Did you break down over the years, and everyone could probably go to the Strava and they'd get a little message and link, and you'd look at all your kind of your hours and your feet climbed and miles ridden over the years. How did yours compare?
This year versus previous years?
Yeah, I don't know. How else are you going to compare it?
I don't know. To your years? I don't know. This year was definitely fewer miles than prior years. I think I spent a little more time in the earlier months on the trainer, which doesn't yield a ton of mileage. And then I really tapered off kind of around September and just didn't ride nearly as much. So I think in prior years, I was 3,000 to 4,000 miles more than I hit this year. That might be a bit much. Maybe 2,000 to 3,000.
Because you had a decent. I don't know if you want to give you numbers, but you're almost twice as many miles as I was.
I don't think so.
I was like 3,500, and you were like 64.
Let me go to the record books.
Yeah, let's see a look at that, and it is interesting to see. But on mine, I'm just gonna. So there's kind of your personal well-being. And I must say that I had a good year personally, like family-wise, business-wise, podcast-wise. And yet I had less miles ridden on the bike. So maybe there's that balance that I was enjoying a little bit more.
You were at 4,500 miles.
4,500?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Strava doesn't lie. I was just about 6.
What did I think? 3,500. Maybe that was feet climb. No, I don't know what it was. You were just at 6?
Yeah, 6,100 or something like that. So.
Gotcha. So that wasn't a big year for me at all, but it was pretty low, but not horrible either. My biggest month was July.
Same for me.
Yeah, I think we did a lot of riding together.
Right.
What was your biggest ride of the year?
It was the death ride, 120 something miles and a lot of climbing.
Right. Mine, I don't think I broke 100 at all this year. It was that
really?
Is that ride we did out with Curt, right at 100.
Oh,
you know what? I think we did 100, but my Garmin crapped out on me that day, so I didn't get the full mileage.
Doesn't count then. So maybe you're at like 30 or 4,600 miles.
Yeah, there's a few days that are missing, but not too many. Okay, a few things that went on. We have the best of. We're going to kind of go over some of our stuff for the 2018. Some new kits for 2019. Bike testing. Some winners, some losers. Vuelta route was announced. Just say that I went over it, and I want to do a full show on that, so maybe we'll save that for later. But there's not a lot of analysis other than it looks like the climbs they're kind of moving away from their punchy, they're kind of a forefront of some different types of riding, and they're kind of stepping back as the tour is kind of going towards that.
Yeah.
So,
did you see anything for time trials in that?
I believe they have the longest time trial of the year.
Okay.
For all 3 Grand Tours. Which isn't much.
Just
maybe,
one of them?
I think so, yeah,
okay.
like 35K. I'm just trying to pull this out of my head from what I'd read, but I believe that was one of the aspects, which is always interesting. Oh, you don't think of the Vuelta as a time trial, and none of them are like they used to be.
Right.
I've gone over this before. You look at one that just comes to mind, 1987 Tour de France. I mean, they had a time trial that was 60-some K, or maybe it was more than that. I'm thinking it was like 50 miles. It was, and they had 3 time trials that were about just astronomical amounts that are more. Each time trial was more than they've had for the whole tour.
Right.
So a lot of time trialing.
Yeah, because I think even in the tour this upcoming year, it's pretty slim for time trials. And do they have a team time trial in the tour this year or in 2019?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I thought that was coming into one of the Grand Tours. But yeah, it's a bummer to see that discipline kind of fading from those events.
Right. So I'm just going to go over some what I pulled up here. So they had a prologue of 6K, and then they had a time trial on stage 2 of 41K. Then they had an 87K, which is 54 miles on stage 10.
This is the 87?
87. They have a mountain time trial of 23 miles.
Wow.
Another individual time trial on day 24 of 38K. So, I mean, you're looking at 24, 23, 54, 25, and 3.7 mile time trials. The 4 time trials, including the prologue.
Yeah. Not
anything like what you see today. You don't see any time trials over like 30-some K. I mean, really.
Yeah, that's a bummer because obviously it works against guys like Dumoulin. I mean,
right.
it's kind of a good leveler when you compare it to some of the just pure climbing guys. It's a good way to kind of keep everybody on the
yeah. You look
field.
back, and then you had the Indurain days where he would just come out and he would blow people. I mean, you get a time trial that's 50 miles.
Yeah,
he could put 3, 4, 5 minutes on someone. Now the race is over. So you've got your dynamic now of, okay, we do less of this, so we stack it all in the last week. The climbers are still there,
right,
causing havoc on the sprint finishes.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I guess there's really no perfect formula, but it's
right. All right. So did you read anything about the Vuelta or any of the other tours?
I saw a note here on our notes that said the stage routes were announced. Does that count?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, no, that's as much as I read.
I did see, just speaking of Grand Tour stuff, Dumoulin and I'm trying to remember the other rider, big rider that they were lined up for the Giro.
I know who you mean, and I cannot. Was it Aru?
Maybe it was Aru again. I don't know. We'll have to go back.
And I know Valverde's doing the Giro, right?
Maybe that was it.
Because I know they're not taking him to the Tour.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It'll be interesting. We'll have to do a complete roundup of some of these interesting riders coming up.
Yeah.
I got something here, a thing that make you go, right away, right off the bat. We're going to do. I don't know if you have anything for this, but for us, it's this is episode 95. We're coming up on 100 episodes. Thought I'd throw this out there. It might happen somewhere around Land Park. Well, they call it Cal Aggie, the first one, but it happens at Land Park. Maybe you guys can give us some suggestions of some things to do for 100th. No? Chris says no.
You never know what kind of... Well, okay, people can make suggestions, but it doesn't mean we have to follow through on them.
Of course. I'm married. I know how this works. Yes, please make a suggestion.
Right.
Anyway, send us your suggestions if you have anything special that you might want to think about. So, and Chris says no. Chris says your suggestions are not worth it. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So some of the best of the 2018 performances to love, hate, and mock. What do you have here? Or do you have anything on the
I don't necessarily have anything on the It's just we're kind of I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for trying to get myself into some form of reasonable fitness before racing starts, and we're so lucky with this weather and so cursed with this weather as well, because it's like I'm riding as much as I feel I should, but I know there's other people out there just totally taking advantage of the weather and just stacking miles.
Before you go, like, it's been decent weather the last few days, and like today and last few, it's been gorgeous. It's just a little chilly. I mean, it's not like when I was in Colorado and you'd go and your water bottles would be frozen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's maybe 45, 55,
right.
and I'm like cursing because it's chilly. But it's gorgeous. So
it is. I mean, it's great. Just get out and put some miles in weather. But it's like,
it's cold enough that I don't want to ride other than like noon to 3.
It's a good window, though.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Keep going.
No, it's just I'm just irritated with myself for not getting out on the bike more. So the things that make me go is me second guessing my lack of fitness right now.
All right, this is not a therapy session, but it sounds like that's where you brought it.
Yeah, I'm on the couch.
All right.
Come on.
All right, let's start with the performances of 2018 Tour Down Under. Was this you that wrote this up, or was this me?
This must have been you.
All right, so I just started with a few here. Richie Porte takes off, wins the Tour Down Under again, that Wollonga Hill. But what kind of impressed me from there was Egan Bernal. Yeah. He had done, I think, the race in Colombia and got a little, look at that, a little exciting. And then he does this, and you're like, oh, he's hanging with the top guys quite impressively. And it was interesting. I was like, okay, well, we'll see what you do later on, because you've seen, Woods has gone out there and made impressive. But he had a good season.
He did. Bernal did. I'm thinking about Tour Down Under, and the year before, Woods, that was kind of his breakout race.
Right.
And everybody, I think, was expecting him to go back and repeat and have a stellar Tour Down Under. And he just, I don't want to say he sucked, but he did not do well. It was kind of disappointing, and I think it was, a good eye opener for him to step it up a little bit and maybe get better results as the year went on.
I almost remember maybe I'm wrong on this, but it seems like to me his idea was, okay, look, first year came down, that was a big goal, so he was primed and ready.
Yeah.
And the next one is like, this is not my goal. My goal is later on in the year, the Vuelta, what have you. And so he was holding back on that, or maybe it was the Giro even. And then he really didn't come into it until he got his performance in the Vuelta. But it is interesting. I mean, Daryl Impey was riding well for Mitchelton Scott there. You know, he did well. Caleb Ewing and a few others. So did Sagan do Sagan, Paris-Roubaix? That was an impressive win that he got.
Yeah, who was he with there in the finish? Do you remember?
There was, I don't...
He was a Swiss rider, right? Swiss national champion. And now that was a great race. I'm not a huge Sagan fan, but it was still a great race. And it was cool to see the guy, I feel bad, don't know his name, the guy he was riding with just take and trade turns with him all the way to the finish. I mean, he was in a prime position to I can just sit here and let Sagan pull me all the way to the finish, or, you know, let whomever is behind me catch up and I can maybe surf wheels to a better result. But that was a really cool race.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that guy, and, you know, I'm sure that guy.
Right.
Well, post-production, we'll put his name in. I'm sure if we think about it a while, we'll get to it. But his options were, I think it was, hey, I just ride. I mean, my odds of flicking back and coming up with some guys from the pack and still winning, you still got Sagan there. You have other sprinters. I could get second. Why not keep going? So good for him. Strada Bianca, that was another one. Eclectic and impressive finishing trio with Bardet. You got the guy's name?
I do. It's no longer just that guy. It's Sylvain Dillier.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Third place was Nicky Terpstra.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. He got those three were up because Terpstra. He made the move of going up there when everyone was like, you know, why are you going up the road?
Right.
It was a little weird.
Yeah.
But obviously he did his job. Anyway, Strada Bianca was another impressive one because he had a little outcoming of some guys that you were expecting. Bardet, Wout van Aert, and Tish Benoot.
Yeah, no, that was a great race. It's such a cool race too, because it's just,
and this year was epic with the horrible with rain and cake,
and Van Aert just basically going into full cramp mode. What, a quarter mile from the finish and falling off his bike?
Nasty steep climb.
Yeah. No, that's an incredibly cool venue, and it was a cool race, and it was good to see Van Aert do so well in such a long, tough race, and it definitely, I think, spoke well for his ability to make the jump next year.
Right. I mean, what I enjoyed about that is you had three completely different riders.
Right.
And even Bardet, it was impressive to see him finish that. And then it was like when the tour came up and they were going through the cobbles and everything, I was like, oh, you know, you can reach back and see that this guy can handle himself on some shitty roads. And, you know, we'll see. And he did. He handled himself on the tour that day, the stage 9 or 10, whatever that was.
Right. Yeah. And then even before this, you had mentioned Caleb Ewan before. Milan San Remo, he got second to who won that? Boy, we're on this. Italian rider.
Oh, Nibali.
Yeah. It was really good to see Ewan take the field sprint there. Because I know that was a really long race for him, and I think his team was still kind of questioning his ability to contend and survive up those final climbs. It was cool to see him do really well there. Granted, he didn't win, but I think that kind of spoke well for his ability to be around for those longer, tougher races.
So let's not go off too far, because Caleb Ewing didn't make the tour team. They had announced it around the tour to Down Under time that he was going to be. He didn't make that team. He's really bitter about it. He signs with Lotto, Red Lotto, and came out with some unkind words about his team and the whole situation. What'd you make of that and kind of the Caleb Ewing of the 2018?
I kind of understand his team not taking him. They were definitely focused on the GC. Leading into that, his results were kind of subpar. So it makes sense that the team didn't take him. Maybe he would have been able to contend in the later stages if he had survived over the hills when the other sprinters hadn't. His comments that he came out with recently after signing with Lotto, they seemed a little... I don't want to say childish, but it was just it was kind of whiny to some extent.
Yeah.
It was just like, all right, you've moved on. Your team that you've left, they've already moved on. Just prove it by winning early next year and sticking it to them that way. But just don't kind of speak so negatively of them to the press.
Yeah, and it's tough because he's a sprinter. He's got an attitude of, put me in this spot, I'll win.
Right.
So that makes sense. And then, but that Mitchelton Scott team, up until stage 19 of the Vuelta, I mean, they were like winning it.
Yeah.
They end up winning the Vuelta. I meant the Giro on the first one. Right, yeah. Then they end up winning the Vuelta, so it's no fluke. They just blew up in the Tour. So, do you take and you sacrifice your team because this is not a mediocre sprinter either. He needs some lead out guys.
Right, yeah.
So you're just
he's not going to surf wheels as well as Sagan and escort himself to the win. So he would need 2 guys, I would say, dedicated to him, and with the field size already reduced, you're going to handicap yourself that significantly when you've got kind of the top end of the GC group riding with you.
Reminds me, his comments also were about missing. You mentioned Sanremo. He mentions how Matteo Trentin kind of effed him over in that race. And I remember you and I talking when Trentin was signed. It was like this time last year. We were talking about going. And I don't remember which episode, but it's out there, people. And we were talking and discussing the possible, hey, look, he's got Trentin. And then also kind of like, maybe, you never know with these lead outs if it's going to be full sacrifice for this guy.
Right.
And it sounds like it was kind of the latter. It was trouble.
No. And if you're Trentin and you're in that position, you're not in that position where you can be able to win that race that often.
Right.
So I can kind of see him thinking, I'm going for this. This is my home race. I'm going to try and take the win.
When he had like 3 straight wins, not straight, but 3 wins that year in the Vuelta. So It's not like he was, and he won some later season stuff too, with like diminished sprinters. So,
and he's the Euro champion. So he's obviously earned the opportunity, but
Anyway, interesting stuff there. I just thought we'd mention some of that. The Giro, we just mentioned that. Some of the highlights there, obviously Yates winning full bore and then blowing up fantastically. There's a lot of fantastic blow-ups in that race.
Yeah, Chavez just disappeared in that race.
Right.
He pretty much disappeared until I think they finally said he's healthy again to actually race.
Right.
So he had an incredible blow-up because they were kind of 1-2, maybe 1-3, something like that.
Yeah.
Because there was the stage where Chavez launched ahead and Yates bridged up to him and they finished 1-2. And then I think Chavez just disappeared after that stage.
Well, yeah, it was like the next stage or so, and he had trouble on like the mediocre Cat 3 climb.
He lost 45 minutes or something on the stage.
It was really pathetic. But so you had that. There was other Pinot blows up.
Yes.
Aru blows up.
Yes.
I even heard, I think it was Froome was writing about his Giro, and he was saying it was either him or Dumoulin. I think maybe it was Dumoulin. One of them. I almost think it was Froome now.
I don't think Dumoulin raced that, did he?
The Giro?
Yeah.
he was second.
Oh, okay, good.
You thought he should be the rightful winner, but
no, that's Curt.
I'm almost thinking it was Froome that said if Dumoulin had gone with him, he wouldn't have. He thought that it would have, been a different outcome on that climb, or maybe it was Dumoulin that had said that. Anyway, whatever, one of those guys.
That was the one where Froome just went berserk and everybody compared him to Landis.
Right. Which I've broken down as not quite as credible or incredible as that.
It's like 80% Landis.
Yeah, maybe not. What else we got here? Tour of California. What's the highlight of the Tour of California this year?
I think it must have been our coverage.
Right.
What else was there, right?
Right. And even if it was minimal, we had a good time.
How many stages are in the Tour of California?
Does it
7?
1 or 2? That's all we
did a lot of them. I mean, I focus on the Northern California aspect of the Tour of California, and I think we talked about them in some capacity in their entirety.
And then the females, the women's race. I mean, I went to the presentation down the road.
How many yellow jersey wearers did you talk to on the women's side?
2, at least 2.
And how many stages did they have?
They had 3.
There you go.
So, I talked to every yellow jersey wearer.
Right. That's impressive.
Right.
How many people can say that?
Probably every other media person that was there. Probably some random people that were on the side. Do you remember the Tour of California, the guy that was across the street out in Elk Grove that looked like the Unabomber?
Yes.
Yeah. That was the highlights that we get. And if you look back to some of those interviews, I mentioned that with Dave Toll, who seemed to be a little agitated with my conversation with him. Did you get that impression?
Yeah, he didn't seem like he wanted to give you the time of day. I think you brought up some historical races, and that piqued his interest, or was that Roll?
No, Roll didn't want to give me the time of day.
Okay. He gave you his email address though and said, hey, send me an email.
Which, sorry, this is all over the place, but we're highlighting. He was just on with Lance Armstrong, and he talked about a subject that I wanted to talk to him about as well, which was...
Hamstein?
Huh?
Hamstein?
No, Hampton. No, that would have been one as well. Okay. But actually was his involvement in the big part of Lance's book, Can't Come Back, when they were out in Boone, Tennessee or someplace like that, North Carolina, I don't know where it was. And that the time that they spent out there, I just thought that was it would be an interesting conversation. Okay, whatever, F them.
But Tour California was great because I think that was Kitty Hall's launch pad to Bulls Dolman. Right. So it's good to see her make that transition. And it was also, looking back to your mention of Bernal at Tour Down Under, it was, I think it was probably the first race where he was really given a leadership role, and he just went to town. It
was crazy. If you watch that again, and take yourself back to like when we were doing our commentary and all that, Ben. The first stage was a Baldy.
Yes. No, not Baldy.
Gibraltar.
Yeah, Santa Barbara.
Just cracks those guys.
Right.
Then it loses out on the time trial, and it's somewhat even. You're thinking, but the display he did then out in Lake Tahoe was maybe even more impressive. The time gap he put on them up that final climb.
Right.
It was unbelievable.
And then he just held it through the descent into South Lake. It was impressive because there was not a fantastic group effort to bring him back, but there was enough of a group effort going where if he was struggling at all, they would have pulled him back. And it was... I
think it was just gaining.
Yeah.
There's enough climbing coming into Heavenly, lots of little pitches and stuff where he was able to... Anything that they thought they were going to, consolidate and get that effort, but it just got whipped away.
Right. And it was good to see Gegenhardt just do a fantastic effort as his primary support guy. It was a bummer to see TJ just absolutely fall apart. And there was another U.S. rider, I forget who it was, younger guy, that did really well.
Was not Carpenter, but it's from Raleigh. The young, it might come to us. Yeah. But I'm trying to remember his name. Good. Yeah, he's definitely got
McNulty?
McNulty, yes. Yeah. He's got a future going for him too.
It was a cool race because it was, obviously there's the big race that everybody's gearing up for in the tour. It was just good to see guys coming in and just having a fantastic race like that.
Right. And good weather and everything for that. Tour de France, we had Richie Port crashes out again. I mean, you'd start to wonder if he's just ever going to ever.
Next year.
Okay. Well, okay. There we
Depends on how he does in Wollonga Hill.
He's with Trek this year, is that right?
Trek Segafredo, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Wollonga. He needs to bury Wollonga. I mean, stop, because that'll maybe be a stepping stone up to the final podium. Degenkolb in Roubaix. That was obviously
good
impressive.
To see. Yeah.
A bit of a Dutch resurgence.
Yes.
Lotto Jumbo. Very impressive with them. Back to Caleb Ewing's thing. Their team manager spoke openly this year about the problems of having Greenwagen, as you like to say. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't know what you do next year because our Tour de France, GC team is becoming so good. Maybe you don't bring him, and that's part of the problem of starting to up your GC team and yet having a strong sprinter. But
I think I think if you've got a guy like Groenewegen, you've got to bring him. I mean, he won so many stages last year. He did really well.
He won 1 or 2 at the tour, wasn't it? 2?
I think he won 2, maybe 3.
Back to back, I think he won 2.
But yeah, how do you not bring him?
I guess.
Who's going to win the sprints if no sprinters go? That's not going to be very exciting.
No, then that's when you start having Matteo Trentin. Well, maybe Kittel starts winning again.
Yeah, that could be.
Sky dominates once again, going 1-3.
1-3.
Yeah, 1-3. But all from the start to finish, basically having that.
But Dumoulin hung around in there. I mean, he did well,
as he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it was an impressive, good race. I'm not a big fan of either Sky winner there. So,
what do you think of the? I mean, we probably covered all this when it happened, but looking back at it, the kind of early tension, if you will, between G and Froome as to who was actually going to be the designated team leader there. Thomas, we'll call him Thomas. I couldn't think of his name.
I know.
I mean, it was still kind of, Thomas deferring to Froome until it was pretty evident that Froome had blown up.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know if Thomas just didn't believe in himself or if he was just kind of playing the role. But it was always like, oh, I'm still here for him. But, there'd be different tactic things like he's up the road, Froome's getting dropped, Bernal's dropping back to help Froome.
Right.
So you're like, yeah, maybe. I mean, it doesn't seem like the thing you're going to do if you want to help protect the guy. But
yeah, and he definitely had some scorching finishes at some of those mountaintop finishes.
Oh, yeah.
So he was definitely playing the role and saying the right things to the media, but he wanted to win.
Right, and it would have been interesting to see once again if Dumoulin doesn't, crap out on what is it, stage 6? I want to say up the short little Britannia wall or whatever they had.
Well, he had a flat, right?
Right, he had a flat and then hung on behind the Austin Mini Cooper or whatever it was. So, anyway, Tour de France, British end up ruling 1, 2, 3 of the tour. I mean of the Grand Tours, which we'll get to in a little bit. So Tour Utah, Sepp Kuss kind of explodes onto the World Tour. With a fantastic, impressive win there.
Right.
You can look back and go, oh, maybe the competition wasn't, what it could have been back in the days of Utah. But
can only race who shows up, right?
Right. But then, first third of the Vuelta, that guy was getting airtime on because he was crushing it on the top front of the climbs for his teammates. So.
Right. Yeah, he did incredibly well, and I look forward to seeing some of his results next year.
Right. Then we got the Vuelta. Ben King comes out. You had brought up that article, or a video with him where he was talking about his eating disorder in the past.
Yeah, that was the GCN was talking about what's a healthy weight for cyclists, and they interviewed him, and I guess he had some serious issues historically with food and overworking and undereating, and some results weren't to his benefit, unfortunately. So
right. And sometimes you see it with guys where they just kind of don't really, he still makes it back to the top step.
Right.
And,
literally. Yeah.
Literally. And 2 big wins, it's really had a really good, obviously, Vuelta for him. So good for him. Yates obviously finally learns from the Giro and wins that. You got, as you mentioned before, Mike Woods getting a very impressive win on that super steep, which kind of gave an idea of what he can do for Worlds, which he had as well. World's great last 20 kilometers. Maybe one of the best last 20K that I've of a race like that I've seen in quite some time.
I would agree. I mean, it was in whether you are in favor of the winner or not. I mean, it was a pretty suspenseful finishing circuit. So it was really cool to see Dumoulin chasing back on. Those 3 guys kind of working together to stay away. I was really hopeful that Dumoulin would have been able to come through and still have some momentum to contest the sprint, but obviously burned himself just catching up to those guys.
Well, and take the controversy of who won out of it and just put in the idea of, okay, you got some racers and some strategy that had to be deployed. Right. And I guess you go, look, this is why one of the reasons why Valverde ends up winning a lot too is you can't always, the strongest guy isn't always winning.
Right.
He's got to have some smarts. And just the way they played that last 20K, especially the last 2 or 3 when Dumoulin's coming up, but they're all still fighting for it.
Right.
It was very interesting. I mean, it was well done.
Yeah, it was incredibly well done. It was interesting to see some of the guys that got blown off on that final climb that did.
Moscon.
Moscon, Bardet. Guys that you would think should be there on a steep, pitchy climb like that just got shelled.
And yet, what's interesting about watching that is when they're having trouble and they're kind of doing their surge and kind of down the road is Dumoulin, and he's just, and you don't really see him because he looks like he's cracked already, but he's got a steady motor.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he's coming over the top ahead of Moscon and those other guys.
Yeah, no, that was impressive on his part.
All right, so what do you got for local best of 2018?
So I put together a really short list. For best local race result, I would probably tag Zimny winning Masters Road Race Nationals. He's been on here. We've ridden with him a lot, and it was good to see him land that result.
Yeah, you don't expect that because his name is not Dan.
Right.
Pete's rider. Dan getting a Worlds or Nationals.
Did any of the Dans win? I think Dan
Bryant, I think,
did
won
he win
his
TT or something.
No, not the TT this year.
Oh.
I want to say one of the maybe not. I have to look back. Maybe that's why Zimny's the best of Nationals.
He's carrying that team now. I mean, it's all Brian's
Dan
team.
Martin won something this year.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something. I'm very vague. we could post production of that.
We're pulling this up. Results stand out for you?
Why don't you finish off your list here?
I think I'm done with my list.
Well, you had some other ones.
So the other one I was looking at was, there was a handful of YouTube series that came out locally. I really enjoyed Jeff Linder's videos.
Right.
It seemed like he really enjoyed putting together a lot of insight into his race thought, a lot of good insight for race strategy and actually good footage of the races, whether it's local or I think they had some video from, was it Intelligentsia Cup?
Yeah.
So it was good to see.
On the podium there.
Yeah. And just the video quality was great.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's short, 5-6 minute videos and just cool content. And I would probably, based on their results collectively throughout the season, his team, Tunein, they did incredibly well. They were just at all the races and always performing. And same thing. I mean, they may have won a lot of the red kite stuff, but you can only race who shows up, and they did a great job winning whatever they were entering. So
yeah, locally, interesting stuff you put there. Chico going up there this year for kind of the local men's scene was pretty cool. I mean, we got into it on, and even the women actually, being able to talk to them.
Yeah.
Ali Dragoo, some of the Point S racing team, Intelligentsia Coffee. I'm trying to remember the Britt Lee and her team that was there. But even talking to Sam Boardman, who was very impressive, even going out to nationals this year.
Yeah.
And some of these other guys, obviously Mike's. Anyways, it was fun. Justin Williams, seeing him out there. Some of the great local. His win the last day was pretty impressive. I would also say Zimny winning nationals was really good for him. Good guy, his team. Maybe not good for his team. Maybe he's at least not an outcast. Now they only have maybe Jay and Ronnie that haven't won nationals.
Right.
So
they better step it up this year. They're going to be
the YouTube. I do like your thing with Linder. Another one that gave us some good early season was Sean Bagley, especially real important stuff at the Folsom that we needed to see some of those videos there. Right. Who was the one? Was it Linder that gave the one with Timmy and Willie?
Yes.
Knocking arms and stuff?
Knocking heads.
Knocking heads.
Yeah.
Knocking arms, yeah. That was good. Now, you have the best race series. You said Golden State Omnium.
Yeah. Do you consider that a series or not? I don't know. I just enjoyed that race. I think it's got such a really cool vibe. It's put on by a local team, Rio Strada, and it's just it has a good draw every year, and it's just a fun local event, and it's kind of like about as grassroots as you can get. So I enjoyed that one. I did a couple red kites throughout the year, but I just really enjoy the Golden State Race Series. Enjoy that one a lot.
Another local performance I would throw out here, and I'm sure there's more, but Ellie Velez on the women's side of really making some steps up. Instead of just getting some results, it was her, and it's kind of the same top 3 or 4 women that were always getting the results. She ended up going out to Colorado and doing guest riding out there with the team as well.
Right. No, she was always there in the finish of those, pretty much any race she was in. It was like her and Melanie Wong and a few others, Lisa Cordova. So it's good to see kind of those top 4 or 5 girls just always battling out. She was in there.
I don't know how to say her last name.
Sound right.
All right. What's your favorite local Northern California race, crit and or road race?
So that I'll start with road race. That's a tough one because there's some really good ones that are early season, late season. I really like Snelling. It's kind of a really fun early race. What, you don't like it? And this year I did Winters for the first time, and I think for what is available locally, I think that's one of the most dynamic courses I've raced on.
Yeah.
I've avoided it because of the big climb in the past, but it was like, whatever, I'll do it this year. And it was incredibly fun and challenging. Right. And for what's around, I really think that's probably one of the better races around. And it was just a good time. What
I like about that is you got to be able to go up a hill decent because it's not a short climb, 10, 12 minutes or so.
Right.
So you got to be able to climb okay, but it doesn't necessarily restrict it only to climbers.
Right.
So if you get over and you've got a little bit of a kick, it makes you feel good. I don't know. It's like, that's kind of a tough race that like you were there leading us out, cramping up in the last. So
yeah, the one thing I do need to work on for that course though is it
was a hot day.
It wasn't that hot, but
I'm trying to help.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't eat. The descent is pretty technical.
Yeah.
And I was still kind of dealing with some nerves of an earlier crash. So it's definitely one where, and we did have a guy have a terrible crash behind me on the first descent. So it's one where you definitely got to be on your toes for that descent. So I got passed by, I think, the entire field there.
That might be one of my favorite road races out here right now, currently.
Yeah.
Crit-wise, I'm going to pick 2. Nevada City. And is that a crit? Okay, well, then I'll pick a different one. But I
that's circuit race.
I'll do 3. There's like come on, I don't know about circuit. Nevada City and Cat's Hill. Nevada City is, I think, more difficult for climbing. Cat's Hill is similar, but the climb is steeper and shorter, so you get non-climbers that get over it as well. It's kind of a winter's type for crits, and it's awesome. I like that one as well. Did not do that this year. As far as straight crits, maybe I love your technical, old school. And I guess the only one we really have around here would be Davis 4th of July.
But Lodi.
I didn't. Maybe.
Yeah, it's back on the calendar.
Okay, back on the calendar, so we can head out there. What about you for crit? Vallejo, Sassoon.
No, I'll have to come back to that. I would say circuit race, if we want to throw that in the mix. Winchester is a phenomenal course.
Yes, I do agree. Once again, all these races that aren't good for us.
They're not good for us, but it's an anybody can be in there at the end type of course, and it's I don't think it's as well attended as it should be, and I think people are starting to catch on to it as it's such a cool course. It's got 5-ish minute climb in it, and it's fantastic pavement. It is wide open for both sides of the road. The community embraces it. It's
around a golf course, people.
It's around a golf course. A local church hosts the parking area and gives you food. It's a fantastic venue, and it's one I hope that, with it being rolled into the Red Kite Omnium, that it gets more and more people showing up. Whether it's easy points for the Omnium or guys just kind of catching on that it's a great race.
Part of my problem with a lot of racers, and I tried to overcome this myself, is that's tough. That's a race I'm not going to do well, so I'm not going to go show up.
Yeah.
And I get it, but it's a fun one. I don't know if they'd pull you. So, hey, come out there, do a few laps, get lapped, and enjoy it.
And get a meal in the parking lot.
Get a meal, yeah.
For crit, I would say Chico.
And I got a speeding ticket on the way home.
Did you really?
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Jay, can you help me out next time?
He can.
Okay.
Crit, I would say Chico. I really enjoy the Chico crit.
Yeah, you're right. That's maybe very good point.
Fun crit.
Right. That's a good road race too. Some other topics here, and I'm just going to throw through them because don't have enough research on them. But all the teams are coming out with their new kits, whether it's local and or world tour. Ours is pretty much similar to last year. We'll reveal that maybe in an upcoming episode. It's not that big a deal.
I'm waiting for Curt. Curt's going to have an Instagram post on it. He's taking the lead on that.
No, he's not. But did you see any world tour kits that would just... I do like the new Dumoulin's team. What's a Giant Sunweb? They're more of a red. It looks kind of...
I think it's orange because they're now... What are they? CCC?
No. It's not Giant.
You're right.
Sunweb. Sorry.
Sunweb. Yeah. No,
Giant
they do have a red.
So
the Giant bikes went to CCC. I like their kit. I like that kind of simple orange color. Right. Sky went a full change. Aren't they going with a completely different looking kit this year?
More blue, more like our kit.
Right.
Yeah. Everyone's going that way, by the way. If you see that out on the road and it's blue, it's
got to be us.
There's someone, I'm trying to remember what team, maybe it was Pete's posted theirs out, and has more blue in it.
Right.
And I'm trying to get people in trouble, but I think it was posted online. Jeremy Cattell said something like, there's only like 4 or 5 Masters teams. Can we have some variety of colors? So good point.
Black and blue seems to be the color of the year. So
things come and go.
One thing I didn't like that I see in a handful of World Tour kits this year is this weird kind of color fade where like the bibs might be black and it does this weird fade to another primary color on the top.
It's not just an outstretched shorts that are...
That might be it, but no, it's just kind of weird looking.
They're all trying them on in their winter weight, Chris.
I gotcha.
Yeah, Caleb's like, I'm a extra small, and then he's not. So I don't know if Caleb's gained weight or not during the winter.
But I like I remember now the Giant kit's cool. I really like the Bahrain Merida kits. I think that they do a good job clashing the blue and the red colors. It looks pretty cool.
Anybody you're excited to kind of see this year? Like, and I'll give you my example. Larry Warbass going back up to the World Tour. Yeah. He's up with AG2R.
Yes.
And I'm excited to kind of see him getting that chance again. Anybody specific that you're seeing that's Nielsen Palace as well?
Granted, he's had his chance, so to speak, but I'm really interested to see how Sepp Kuss does in a full season, whether they're going to throw him into the Giro or he obviously showed the team, hey, I've got this great set of skills, put it to use, whether it's the Giro or the Tour or another trip to the Vuelta. I think it'll be cool to see him and that team as a whole. Right. I think they're going to be the most potentially kind of sky-killing team out there, whether it's through Roglic or Kuss or having Paulus help out or Kelderman. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that can just really lay it down.
I saw an article that was like, hey, maybe this is going to be good for cycling, the fact that Sky's going away, thin the herd, da-da-da-da. But there's always another team that's on the verge and is putting in money, and it could be Lotto. Or I guess they're not going to be Lotto anymore. That's a different name. Maybe it's just Jumbo. So do we start hating? I mean, is that going to be the next team that we're in 5 years? You look back and you're like, oh, this team is just killing everybody. And so there's always a dominant team, right?
There's always a dominant team, but I don't know. I feel like the personalities on Lotto are a little more. They're not as Sky-like. They're not just robotic. They seem to have personality and flair. And we've ridden with a couple of guys on that team, so it's cool to see the local guy do well. It's cool to see the kind of mountain biker turn roadie just have a great career. So I'm hopeful that they don't just kind of become like a dominant powerhouse. I'm hopeful there's a little bit more parity with some of the other teams.
Well, just watching the Kreuzwick and Roglic, just the way they rode I loved it, right? I mean, like throwing it all out there, 6-10K to the finish, just haymaker, maybe fail, maybe you take off on the downhill again like Roglic was doing. Yeah. It was a different mentality than just, although G did attack a lot at the tops, but it was a different mentality than just grind and pop. And then,
even seeing it was Kreuzwick that led the Alpe d'Huez day on the tour. It was cool to see that approach
from
to it.
Way out. Yeah.
I'm gonna go, and here we go. Yeah. Since we're going more or less unscripted here,
we always do.
Yeah. No, we follow a very formal approach. It'll be interesting to see how some of these teams. What is it? Education First. What are they going by now this year?
Who cares?
I don't know. They dropped Drapac, I believe, but. It'll be interesting to see how some of these teams that are taking on a non-road specific approach handle the season, because they've got guys that are allegedly going to be doing, dirt events, whether it's gravel or something like Leadville. How they balance that with their existing obligations, and is that just kind of a way to keep the team? Because Education First didn't exactly have a whirlwind of results. Are they just trying to stay visible and kind of keep the sponsors happy, or how are they really going to approach that this year? Because I know a few other teams are looking to do that on the kind of lower levels. Whatever Floyd's new team is, they've used that as kind of like a model to model their 2019 doing non-road events.
Well, speaking of which, so I saw TJ, an interview with him, and they were asking him about his coming on the team and joining forces with Rigoberto and blah, blah, blah. And then they said, hey, this dirt thing, you doing that? And his reaction was an emphatic no. It was almost like they'd asked him to, kiss his sister. It's like, ugh. And I was like, okay, so he's got a different focus, a different mind. He's still old school TJ.
Right. Now, is that the interview where he said he just wants to ball?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't think he meant cry. I think he meant like, throw down with the boys on
the court.
Yeah. Although there was that video of him, they're fixing his time trial bike on a velodrome, and the infield has a basketball hoop, and he's out there shooting hoops with his cleats and his time trial helmet. And most cyclists, you look at it, you can see how someone shoots and you go, they've never really, it looks like he'd played a little basketball before.
Okay. JV, maybe in like.
Probably not JV, but enough, enough shooting up with his wife that he, had some skill.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about this bike testing?
Yeah, we can. I don't know.
Or do you want to just say that for another time?
I can summarize it in enough words that it would be worthwhile.
Do it.
Aero bikes, Disc proves to be not as aero as non-disc. Tour Magazine has some really good data. Check it out.
tour magazine?
It's a German magazine.
Okay.
You've got to be able to copy paste into your Google Translator to make heads or tails of it.
So maybe the results are different than what you say they are.
That could be. I don't know. It's just it just seems like there's always this new push to have something be the next big thing on the market, and it seems to be disc, and Aero disc doesn't appear to be as Aero as Aero non-disc.
Speaking of discs and speaking of translations, back when I was in college, a long time ago, the friend of mine, they had these big laser discs that you'd play movies on.
Sure.
And he got this I think it was Star Wars, and it was English, and it would then translated it to like Japanese. And so it would have like subtitles, but then he had somehow translated it back. So it wasn't just, okay, we're back to English. It was back from the Japanese translation back to English.
I'm sure it was quality.
That was hilarious.
Sure.
It was more like your it was Mystery Science 3000 type drunk episode. So
right.
it was pretty stellar, as you can imagine.
I can imagine. Laserdisc, huh?
Laserdisc. Look it up, folks. It went out with beta.
It did.
Okay. So you're basically saying the bikes, the aero bikes is the way to go. It's more beneficial to have an aero bike than a light bike?
That's what the data says. I mean,
even on a climb?
Up to a certain percent and body weight. So it's like, I think it's up to like 5%. You're going to be having a more benefit by being on the aero bike than not. And then also, most of your rides are not going to exclusively be a 5% climb. There's going to be some flat or some descent leading into or coming after the climb. So
which helps people, I guess.
Yeah, in the end, a little bit of a reduction in drag is beneficial.
What's the best bike out there right now?
I don't know.
Madone?
Depends.
Is that what it says?
No, it doesn't say that.
Okay, so these lists here. Okay, well, maybe we'll take a better look at it, and then one of the boring times in the year, we'll go over that. Do you have any winners or losers? Oh, do you want to finish off that?
I was just going to say, so the biggest challenge with looking at aero data is that it's not just a bike, it's a system. So if you look at a bike, it might test better with wheels A than B, while bike B may test better with wheels B than A. And then you add U onto it with a different helmet. So it's all this kind of big system. So you might buy the bike that tests the best as a frame set alone, but for you as a system and the wheels that you use, it's worse than another bike. So in the end, I mean, it's really just getting to the point of picking nits where you're like, it's going to save me half a watt. And it's like, but is it? I don't know.
Right. So if you can afford to go into a wind tunnel and try all these and get the best system, maybe this is the way to go. If you're like us and you're not going to do that, what you could probably do is lose some weight, shave your arms, and you'll be good.
Yeah. And generally, if you feel the need to buy an aero bike, just get any old aero bike off the shelf, and you're probably going to be just fine.
Right. Of course, you guys can always look up our own results, and then you could make your determination whether our strategy has been working well for what you want to do. Probably not. Speaking of losers, any winners or losers for you this week, and on the year in general?
Oh, can I pick myself as a loser? Is that okay?
Most people do.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Do you want to back that up with some data?
Just life in general.
Wow.
No. Just my fitness just stinks right now.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. It's amazing just like you find yourself on a group ride and you're like, oh, God, this is terrible. Why do I hurt so bad? So I'm a loser for letting my fitness fall apart, but I'm a winner for identifying it and wanting to do something about it.
Well, the first step to recovery is acknowledging your faults.
Right.
I feel the same way that you are my loser. About the fitness thing. I mean, I let mine go so bad that I'm looking at my CTL and it's just I'm working on it and I'm recording all my data every day, even weight, because I'm kind of interested in seeing maybe a progression, maybe do a little movie on the step by step daily, the weight and everything. The CTL pop coming back up. So, but it's frustrating. And a few years ago I was like, I don't want that. So over the winter I was keeping my foot on the gas, short, intense climbs and the little things. And my weight was really good. And it was fun. It was fun going into the early part of the season fit.
It is.
I don't race enough to get burnt out. But
that's a good point. If you don't do enough to get burnt out, that's fine. I just last year I hit the winter really hard. And I think by March I was done. I just didn't even want to ride. So I'm hopeful that by delaying my progression into getting fit, I'll have some interest in riding my bike maybe through July.
Yeah, but you're already depressed about it right now. How's your depression going to be in February? Probably worse.
No.
I know we talked about the best of 2018, so we probably don't need to pick any winners or losers. Although I just want to say thanks for everybody that's tuned into this podcast. Like I said, we're almost up to 100 episodes. And especially you, Chris, for coming in. You were there on episode 2 in the background when I interviewed Nate Dunn. And
what was it? Episode 1?
Episode 1, which is I did a little review of some of the stuff this last few weeks. Episode 1 was basically me with my iPhone talking into it, doing a recording and talking about like different races. The Tour de France was coming up, so I talked about how I watched the tour and different ways to get on. And in episode 1, I even mocked Phil Guyman. That's how intense this love battle is. What's interesting then is what I was saying to him about him at the time was he wrote an article about Lance Armstrong and how we shouldn't be listening to his podcast because he had come out, because he was a cheat.
Right.
So then he has on Danielson. What the fuck? Why am I going down this road? Anyway, I want to thank you a lot for being on the show and for helping, be part of this whole thing. And Curt, obviously, as well. Curt's done a lot of work behind the scenes, some production stuff. You're the amazing reason. And then we joke about this, but we'll say something like, oh, that bike arrow, or there's some route. And you come up with all kinds of creepy data.
Don't proof check any of that data. Just FYI.
You're like, I've been on light cameras and everything else looking at stuff. So it's been impressive.
It has been a fun year. I enjoyed it. I will say, your tenacity of keeping on Curt and I to stay on it is impressive. And the amount of time and effort that you put into it is really cool. So I'm looking at this list of 2018 guests, and I would read through it, but it would take forever. So obviously there's been a whirlwind of people that you've had the opportunity to talk to. So it's really cool. I looked at that, and I was actually I went through all the episodes, and I just picked them out of all the people we had talked about. I would love to list everybody here, but it's really impressive. We'll just kind of go through some highlights. Andrew Shimizu, who's been on a few times. We talked to Willie Myers, some of our own teammates, John Novikov, Scott Hooper, Jeff Scott, Matt Chatleon came in, Jason Graffath came in twice. One of the episodes that I really enjoyed, you guys can always skip back because some of these are dated because it's specific to what we were talking about, with my friend Jonathan Scriven, who lives over in France in Nice. And matter of fact, he just was saying the other day at his school, Nicholas Roach came in and had a talk. So anyway, good information there about kind of what he does over in France and kind of American living over there. Sam Boardman, Ali Dragoo, Chris Reichert, Justin Williams. Half an interview with Larry Nolan.
That one kind of bugged out on us. Jeff Gallen talked to us he was the director at the Chico. Jessica Mundy, Sean Bagley and Jeff Prince. I really appreciated those guys coming in talking about their race. And then there was a bunch of guys we talked to at Winchester, Jonathan Baker, Jay Newton, Kendall Ryan of Team Timco. That's when she won that day. Ed Beeman, her director, Nilson Paulus, Tom Soliday, Katie Hall, Taylor Wiles, Dave Toll, Charlie Cuisinot. He was the Nevada City guy. Dave Garzoli.
Yeah, going back to
Zimney. I'll just finish out. Zimney, yeah. Doug, Kurt's dog Doug, and Mike Sayers, the last one.
Where did Ed Beeman? It was cool to see him take as much time as he did. I mean, he had a lot of insight, and he was really excited just to talk cycling. That was really cool to see. Yeah, well, Ed Beeman, I guess we kind of talked about this. He ran the Navigators team back in the day, back when I was riding, and he had a good team, and they had some ups and downs. So it was interesting to just talk to him about all that. So anyway, there's a lot more in there that we've missed out on. It was really good conversation. I would like to get a little bit more in this next year on some of the just everybody in this Northern California. Talk to some more, and I don't know if anybody has some suggestions or some other people that you'd like to talk to. Not suggestions per se, but I think there were times where there were a lot of people we wanted to talk to, and we thought it would be a good idea to try and do a race and then talk afterwards. That's tough, and didn't realize how much the motivation just falls off after the race. And it's like, I just want to sit here and go home, and they want to talk to somebody. So I think there were a handful of folks that we were going to speak with and just didn't get an opportunity to. And I think we'll try and loop back up with them next year. That comment is so true, because we're at Chico, and we had started to do stuff. And the first day we're just kind of like, and then we went and did it anyway. And then we felt like
we're thrown into this. We're obligated. But you and Curt, and especially you, when on the Sunday when we were going around, you guys would get somebody for me to talk to next. And you were awesome about getting those set up, walking around with me, just directing me to the next person. And that was a lot of fun. I look back at Chico. We did a lot of work that time, but it was some of the conversations we had I really enjoyed. So
I think you're mistaking me for Curt. He was definitely critical in
I don't know. You're in the pictures.
Folks up. I was just standing there to get credit for Curt's efforts, but no, he definitely did a great job of kind of rounding people up. So it was I think a collective effort there, and it was cool to get the opportunity to talk to that much cycling talent in one day.
Right. So anyway, I want to thank all the listeners, all those that have downloaded the podcast and shared it and checked out our YouTube stuff as well. This is definitely going to keep happening because, as you said, you're like my kids, where I'm constantly, hey, did you get your presents for your mom? Did you get presents for your mom? Come on in, let's talk. That's kind of what we do, and we're going to keep going with that because I enjoy it. And the main goal, some of these other shows that you see on YouTube and some of maybe it's about them. And for us, it's about, I love having conversations. I really enjoyed the one with Mike Sayers a week and a half or so, 2 weeks ago. A lot of good info. I really enjoyed it. And we got a lot of positive feedback from people personally sending me stuff saying, thank you. There's a lot of good insights. And for me, that's what's fun. It's kind of sharing the sport, getting more info out there. The sport's got some issues, right? It's got some issues with interest and all those things. And I don't know if we help it. I don't know if we hurt it, but we're going down with it, I think.
And you also you built a new recording studio, so it'd be foolish not to continue on.
Yeah, that's going to happen. We're going to be moving in there in a few weeks. So yeah, all right. Any last words you have?
No, I think 2019 we just got to find a way to kind of loop Curt back in on this.
He's a busy guy, and we'll just have to figure something out, whether we do Skyping it or we just bring him in. But the more we do, the better. All right. Well, good luck to everyone out there in 2019. Best of luck to you, Chris, on the bike.
And you as well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I plan on having a fun year. And
I look forward to it. I think there's going to be a renewed interest. It seems like there's a lot of people took 2018 a little lightly and are excited to come back in 2019. So I'm hopeful for a good season all around.
Maybe when you're out there at a race and you see us at the race, come up to us. Likely I'll have recording stuff with me. We'll just start a conversation. We'll throw you on. So that's probably a horrible idea for me to spread out there, but
just not after the race. We've learned,
but not before either, because I'm warming up and I got to focus.
Right, and during the race, there's a lot of focus too. So,
actually, that might be the best chance. All right, so episode 95. Once again, check us out on all the platforms. We're out there on YouTube. Check us out on the YouTube. We got iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Overcast. Everywhere that you can find podcasts. Check us out on Facebook, Between Two Wheels, and then B2W_podcast on Instagram, Twitter. I think that's it. That's it. Yeah. And we'll see you in 2019. See you.
Bye.
Bye, Curt.
Audrey Bealey, and I race for the Dirtbirds, and today I raced women's single speed.
John NorCal, and I raced...
Who do you race for? And what division did you do today?
Yeah, data-driven athlete racing, and I did the Masters 35 Plus B category.
Hi, I'm Scott Hooper. Race for Top Club Cyclocross A Open today.
What's up, Tyler? Jeff Scott. Ride with you guys, DDA.
The name. First of all, what is the name?
Well, we originally we kind of went through a bunch of different names, but we came up with the Left Turn.
Special guest with us today, Matt Chatleong. Did I pronounce that right?
About as... no.
Me too. I'm sort of the same way, but yet, and we have a lot of, mutual friends from when we were younger, but I've connected with a few of them after 20 years, and we just pick right up. It's unbelievable.
And this week, debut, we have Jason Graffrath of the Thirsty Bear team. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
I hope the drinks are okay for you today.
Yeah, the drinks are welcoming.
And this week we have Matt Tufts of let me see if I get it right, the Oak Valley Bank Cycling Team. How's that?
Very close.
Okay, Matt, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We will be known as the Oak Valley Community Bank Elite Cycling Team.
Community. See, that's the important part.
You got to have community.
Today we're really happy to have Ryan Oakes in my office today with us, joining us on a Saturday night. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Casey Fallon, Category 2, racing as a Masters. Touchstone racing this year. Touchstone Giant.
I am Michael Claudio. I am Category 2, but I race Masters 35 1, 2, 3 for Thirsty Bear.
My name's Ali Dragu. I ride for 2020 presented by Show Air, and I'm doing the Chico Stage Race.
For Chris Reichert for Team Mike's Bikes and 1-2 or P1 here at Chico Stage Race.
My name is Justin Williams. Technically, I race for Specialized Rocket Expresso, but I'm just here representing Specialized myself.
I'm here with Sam Boardman and Mark Pro. We talked after the circuit race. How'd the rest of the weekend go?
I think the rest of the weekend went pretty good, save for Justin Mock going down in the last couple of laps of the race after a rider in front of him clipped the pedal and then slid out.
My name's Mallory Miller, racing for Point S Racing and doing the Pro 1-2-3.
Beth Ann Orton, racing for Point S Nokian Racing and Pro 1-2 Women.
Hi, Larry Nolan, and I am from the Bay Area. I just raced the 55 plus. I'm a 60-year-old.
Lee Bowman, and I'm the manager of the Meteor Intelligentsia women's racing team.
My name's Daphne Cardanis. I'm on the Meteor Intelligentsia, and I'm in the women's pro field.
Hi, my name's Jessica Mundy, and I ride for the Meteor Intelligentsia.
Okay, so I'm detecting a slight accent. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm Australian.
And then from there, we went to Sierra Nevada Brewery. And then from there, we went to downtown Chico and checked out all the bars.
We have Derek Novice of the Real Strata Racing Team in to talk about himself and the bike race coming up, the Golden State Race Series. How are you doing, Derek?
Honored to be here. Love it. Can't wait. It'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, in the last K and a half, our plan was to rush the field and come up on the right side. And my teammates and I, we were drag racing the Wiggle Train, and they just dropped me off in the scrum of the sprint, and I just kind of fished my way through everyone and popped out at the right moment.
I'm with Ed Beeman, right?
That's right.
You're managing now the women's Tibco team, and you obviously had a winner today. Congratulations.
Thanks so much, Todd.
So I'm with Nielsen Palace. Okay, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention your KOM on Ridge Road that we do on Coffee Republic. I was there the day you took that. Any plans on reducing that in the future?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, maybe someday I'll try to go back and take that, but I got to be on a good day because, I was ripping that day, and I don't want to go back and not put a better time up, so got to make sure that I'm ready to do it.
Mike Sayers, welcome, Mike.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hold that up nice close. And your son's here. He's off camera. He's playing games, but we won't join him in unless it gets to specific stuff that we need to talk to him about.
Yeah, if you want to know the secrets, then he'll tell you.